Hi everyone, welcome back to Kids Church online or Harbourside Kids Church from home, whatever you want to call it. I'm Jazz, and if you're new here, welcome. Here on the Preschool Kids video, we like to sing some songs together, then we'll do a quick story. We try and remember a few words and actions to remind us of what we learnt about, and then there's some colouring in to do at the end. So far in August and this part of the school term, we've been talking about wisdom, and our actions have been grow in God's wisdom. And the first week we learnt about Jesus in the temple, listening to people talk about God's word, the Bible. So that's how he grew in wisdom, was he listened to the Bible. And then the week after that we learnt about King Solomon. So he said grow in God's wisdom like King Solomon, and he had to make a really tough decision to help some people because he was the king, and so he really needed God's wisdom to help him, and so he asked God for wisdom. So he prayed and God gave him wisdom as well as lots of other things to make him a really good king. And then last week we talked all about growing in God's wisdom like Daniel. Rah! And we were doing roaring and like that because we learned about Daniel in the lion's den and how Daniel needed wisdom to decide whether to listen to the king that was in charge or whether he should listen to the better king or the ultimate king, which was God. And today we're going to be talking about another king. And I don't know if this is a king you will have heard about before. His name's Rehoboam. Shall we say that together? Ready? Rehoboam. It's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? So we're talking about King Rehoboam, and he needed wisdom to make a decision, and we're going to find out if he got that wisdom, if he listened to the wisdom, and what decision he made in the end. But first, let's sing some songs together. The first song we're going to sing is a song that we like to do in the preschool room, and it's 10, 9, 8, God is Great by Colin Buchanan. So you need your fingers ready to count down 10, 9, 8. We're going to be try and get the right numbers on our fingers. You need some air guitar. You need some God is Great thumbs up. So let's sing this together. Air guitar ready? If you like to play the drums, do a bit of a drum roll. Ready? 10, 9, 8. God is great. 7, 6, 5, God's alive. 4, 3, 2, 1, he's the king of everyone. God's the mighty, mighty Lord of all. Ready? 10, 9, 8, God is great. 7, 6, 5, God's alive. 4, 3, 2, 1, he's the king of everyone. God's the mighty, mighty Lord of all. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, blast off! I hope you're dancing around your living room. 10, 9, 8, God is great. 7, 6, 5, God's alive. 4, 3, 2, 1, he's the king of everyone. God's the mighty, mighty Lord of all. Alright, guitar solo. Maybe you can do a drum solo too. Do some dancing. Ready? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ready, go back. Blast off! The next song we're going to sing, we've been singing for a few weeks, and it's called Proverbs 3, 5 and 6, and it's all about trusting God and asking Him and knowing that He will lead us in the right direction. Let's sing together.
Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your path straight.
Got a whistle for this song. Ready?
Proverbs 3, 5 and 6. Trust, here we go. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your path straight. Proverbs 3, 5 and 6. On your own, here we
Ready?
go. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding.
Ready?
In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your path straight. Whistle! Hard to do when you're laughing. Proverbs 3, 5 and 6.
So far this August, we've been talking all about wisdom. And we talked about how wisdom is like learning to ride a bike. There's a lot of steps, lots of things you have to learn in order to learn to ride a bike. Lots of things you have to do first before you start riding the bike. So wisdom is all about growing and learning about how to do the right thing that God would want us to do. So with Jesus, we learnt that He grew in wisdom by reading the Bible and listening to the Bible. And that's how he learned about God and about what God wanted him to do. And with Solomon, we know that he prayed and he asked God to give him wisdom. So we know that we can also grow in God's wisdom by praying and asking God to give us His wisdom and help us to make the right decision. And last week with Daniel, he also prayed and he trusted God that God would care for him and protect him and guide him to the right decision. So wisdom and growing in God's wisdom is all about having a friendship with God. It's hard to be friends with someone if you don't talk to them or if you don't learn about them. How are you going to buy someone a good birthday present if you don't know anything about them? They might like cricket, but you buy them a soccer ball. Or they might like bananas, but you get them an apple for lunch. So wisdom is all about having a friendship or a relationship with God and learning about Him by reading His Word and praying to Him and talking to Him regularly so we can hear from Him and we can ask Him for help. But today our actions are the same as previous weeks. We're going to grow in God's wisdom. And today it's all about, we're going to go hanging, like we're hanging on a branch, like a monkey, hanging with the wise. We've got a king called Rehoboam, and he has become king now that Solomon is dead, because he was Solomon's son. And the people have said, can you make our lives easier? If you make it easier, then you can be our king and we will listen to you. And Rehoboam does do a wise thing at first, and he says, come back to me in 3 days. So he gives himself time to make a good decision, to think about it. And that was a wise thing to do, to start off with. Say, wait, I'm going to take some time to think about this. And then he asked 2 groups of people for advice. He asked the older people and he asks his friends, the younger people. And the older people say, listen to the people of Israel. Make their lives easier. You want to be their king and they want you to be their king. So make their lives easier, listen to them and give them what they ask for. And Rehoboam goes, okay, I've listened to your advice. Now I'm going to ask my friend's advice. And he asks his friends, the young men, and they say to him, no, you should not do that. Don't listen to the older people and don't listen to the people of Israel. You should make their lives even harder. You should be a hard king. And for whatever reason, Rehoboam decides to listen to his friend's advice. And so when 3 days pass and the people of Israel come back to him and they say, well, what are you going to do? What sort of king will you be? He says, well, I'm going to be a hard king and I'm going to work you even harder. And if you disobey me, I'm going to whip you with even bigger whips. And so the people say, well, we've decided that we're not going to listen to you and you won't be our king. And this is actually what God had planned, because God had a different plan for the people of Israel. And so we can learn from this story that Rehoboam, although he started off making a wise decision and giving himself time to make the decision, he didn't listen to the good advice. He should have listened to the wisdom of the older people, and instead he listened to the foolish or the silly advice of the young people of his friends. Do you remember what our actions were for our story today? Hang with the wise. Do you think Rehoboam did that? Did he hang out with the wise people and listen to what they told him to do? No, he didn't. He listened to the foolish people, to the silly people. And so it was part of God's plan that Rehoboam wasn't actually going to be the king. And the people went home and they said, well, you're not going to be our king because you've not listened. And so what we learn from King Rehoboam today is that when we grow in God's wisdom, we learn to hang out with wise people, because we need to listen to people who are going to help us to make the right decisions. If your friends tell you to go and be mean to someone, or if your friends tell you to go and kick an animal that is hurt, those are not wise things. Those are silly things. Whereas if your friends say, hey, that person looks really upset, I think we should go and hang out with them and cheer them up, that's a good thing. That's a wise thing to do. So how can we grow in God's wisdom, learning from the story of King Rehoboam? Well, we learn to hang out with the wise, not the foolish people, the silly people. Hang out with the wise. So the last part of our video today is that we've got some colouring in, so I thought we could colour in together. Should we do that? Why don't you grab some textures or some pencils and let's colour in our picture together. Our picture actually says on it, hang out with wise people.
I was lost with a broken heart. You picked me up, now I'm set apart. From the ash I am born again, forever safe in the Savior's hands. You are more than the words could say. I follow you, Lord, for all my days. Fix my eyes following your ways. Forever free in unending grace. 'Cause you are my freedom. We lift you higher, lift you higher. Your love never ending. Oh, you are the light in us. Nothing can take your place. You are all we need. Your love sets us free.
There we go, there's our picture. Hang out with wise people. Find friends that help you make decisions that are the right decisions that will make God happy. I hope you enjoyed colouring in. Hope you enjoyed hanging out with me today, and I'll see you next week. Bye.